My beloved child, I see you right now, sitting there with that weight upon your heart, wondering where the path has gone. I feel every ache of uncertainty that moves through you, every moment you've spent searching for answers that seem just beyond your reach. You feel lost, adrift in a sea of questions, and I want you to know that I understand. In this quiet moment, as our hearts connect through these words, know that your feeling of being lost has not separated you from me. I am with you now, just as I have always been, even when the fog seems thickest around you. Take a deep breath. Feel my presence wash over you. The heaviness you carry, that sense that you've somehow wandered too far from where you're meant to be, I understand it completely. There is no shame in this feeling. There is no failure in this moment of uncertainty. So many of my children believe they must always know the way, that being lost means they have done something wrong. But I tell you now, with all the love in my heart, that seasons of feeling lost are part of the sacred journey I have designed for you. Even the most faithful travelers sometimes find themselves in unfamiliar territory. Remember how Moses wandered in the desert for 40 years. How David hid in caves, uncertain of his future. How my own son cried out from the cross, feeling momentarily forsaken. The greatest stories of faith contain chapters of profound uncertainty. Your story is no different. I hear the questions that tumble through your mind when you lie awake at night. Where am I going? Have I made a terrible mistake? Why can't I see the path ahead clearly? Has my life gone off course? Have I disappointed you? These questions echo in the chamber of your heart, growing louder in the silence, until they drown out the voice of hope. But today, I am reaching across that void to remind you of a truth you may have forgotten. Being lost is not the same as being abandoned. I have never left your side, not for a single moment. When tears fall from your eyes because the burden feels too heavy to bear alone, I collect each one. When you wake with that familiar knot of anxiety tightening in your chest, wondering what purpose your struggles might serve, I am there, gently working to loosen those tangled threads of fear. The world rushes by at such a frantic pace, doesn't it? Everyone seems so certain, so directed, while you question whether you've missed some crucial turn. Social media shows you carefully curated highlights of others' journeys, making your own path seem more confused in comparison. Family members ask questions about your future that you cannot answer. Friends offer well-meaning advice that doesn't quite reach the core of your confusion. And all the while, that feeling of being lost grows stronger. I want to tell you something important. This feeling is not your enemy. Sometimes being lost is not a detour from the path, it is the path itself. It is in these seasons of uncertainty that your heart becomes more receptive to my voice, your spirit more attuned to my guidance. Think about a garden for a moment. Before any seed can grow toward the light, it must first be buried in darkness. It must lose its former shape and identity, surrendering to a process that initially feels like destruction. Only then can new life emerge. Your feeling of being lost is often the darkness that precedes new growth, the necessary confusion before greater clarity. I know the specific burdens you carry. I know the relationships that have left you questioning your worth. I know the career paths that haven't unfolded as you imagined. I know the dreams that remain unfulfilled, the prayers that seem unanswered. I know the comparison traps that leave you feeling inadequate. I know the mistakes you replay in your mind, wondering if they've derailed your entire future. But what if being lost isn't a punishment or a failure? What if it's actually an invitation to surrender the maps you've been clutching so tightly, the ones that were drawn by expectations that were never truly yours to fulfill? When ancient sailors found themselves in unknown waters, they would look up to navigate by the stars. When you feel most lost, I'm inviting you to look up as well, not to the guideposts of this world, but to me. In the vastness of your questions, I am the constant. In the uncertainty of your path, my love remains sure. You have been measuring your progress by landmarks that were never meant to guide you, others' approval, artificial timelines, cultural definitions of success, the illusion of constant certainty. No wonder you feel lost. You were created for a journey far more meaningful than the one these false guides would lead you on. When you feel most lost, that is often when you are closest to finding what you truly seek. Not because you will suddenly discover all the answers, but because in your lostness, you become humble enough to recognize the answers when they appear. Pride tells us we should always know the way. Wisdom understands that sometimes we must be emptied of our own understanding to make room for deeper truth. I see your efforts to find the way forward. The books you've read searching for answers. The conversations where you've tried to explain your confusion, only to feel more confused. The prayers that have sometimes felt like they're hitting a ceiling. The attempts to push through, to figure it out, to solve the puzzle of your own heart. Your determination is beautiful to me, but remember this: finding your way is not solely your responsibility. You were never meant to navigate this life alone. There is a scripture that says, "Trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding." This isn't a command to stop thinking or to abandon your intelligence. It's an invitation to recognize the limits of your perspective. From where you stand, you can only see a fragment of the path. From where I stand, I can see it all: the winding roads, the steep climbs, the unexpected turns that will lead you to vistas you cannot yet imagine. The feeling of being lost often comes not because you've failed, but because you've outgrown. You've outgrown old ways of thinking, old patterns of living, old versions of yourself that no longer fit who you're becoming. The discomfort you feel is not a sign that something is wrong, it's a sign that something is changing. And change, even good change, rarely feels comfortable in the moment. I understand your longing for clarity. The human heart craves certainty, a clear vision of what lies ahead. But some of my greatest gifts can only be discovered in seasons of not knowing. Courage grows when the path is uncertain. Faith develops when you must take the next step without seeing the entire staircase. Compassion deepens when your own struggles help you recognize the pain of others. My beloved child, if you knew every twist and turn your life would take, where would be the space for trust to grow? If you could see the entire journey at once, how would you develop the strength that comes only through walking one difficult step at a time? If every question was immediately answered, how would you learn the patience that shapes a heart like mine? Look back for a moment. Haven't there been other times when you felt lost? Seasons when the fog seemed impenetrable? And yet here you are. You found your way, or more accurately, the way found you. I was faithful then, and I am faithful now. The same hands that guided you through past wilderness seasons are holding you still. Your tears of confusion are not signs of failure, they are waters of transformation. Your questions are not evidence of weak faith, they are the tools by which faith is deepened. Your uncertainty is not a punishment, it is preparation for a new landscape of purpose I am creating within you. So tonight, as you lay your head down to rest, I want you to release the pressure to have everything figured out. The need to know exactly where you're going and how you'll get there. The exhausting pretense that you must appear confident when you feel anything but. Instead, simply whisper to me, "I am lost and I am loved." Because both are true, and acknowledging both is the beginning of finding your way again. I am not finished with your story. This chapter of feeling lost is not the conclusion, it's the transition. And while you may not be able to see what lies ahead, I can. There are connections yet to be made, purposes yet to be revealed, joy yet to be discovered on this journey that feels so uncertain right now. Tomorrow, we will take another step together. Just one step. You don't need to see the entire path, you only need enough light for that single step. And I promise you, that light will come. It always has. It always will. Rest now in the certainty of my love, even in the uncertainty of your path. For even when you feel lost, you are never truly lost to me. I know exactly where you are, and more importantly, I know exactly who you are becoming through this season of questions. I love you not in spite of your lostness, but within it. And my love is the compass that will always lead you home. My precious child, now that you've acknowledged this feeling of being lost, let me remind you of something powerful. The wilderness has always been where my children find their greatest strength. Remember that I have walked with you through every valley before this one. Think back to those moments when you thought you couldn't continue, when the path seemed too difficult, when obstacles loomed large before you. Yet here you are. You survived. You persevered. That same strength that carried you then lives within you still. The wilderness is not an accident in your journey, it is an essential part of it. Just as gold must pass through fire to be purified, just as diamonds form under immense pressure, so too must your spirit pass through these challenging seasons to develop the resilience and wisdom that can come no other way. Moses spent 40 years in the wilderness before he was ready to lead my people. David hid in caves and wandered in the desert before he was prepared to be king. My son Jesus went into the wilderness for 40 days before beginning his ministry. Do you see the pattern? The wilderness is not a detour from your purpose. It is often the very preparation for it. I know this doesn't feel like preparation. It feels like wandering without direction. But even when you cannot see the purpose, I am working within you, developing qualities that could be formed no other way. Patience that comes only through waiting. Compassion that grows from your own wounds. Wisdom that emerges from questioning. Strength that develops only when you face your own weakness. Look at your hands for a moment. These hands that have trembled with uncertainty, that have clenched in frustration, that have reached out in the darkness hoping to find something to hold on to. These same hands will one day hold the gifts that this season of feeling lost is preparing you to receive. These hands will comfort others who walk through their own wilderness. These hands will create from the depths of understanding that only comes through struggle. I see the tears you've cried when no one else was watching. I've collected each one. Not a single moment of your pain has been wasted. Every question, every doubt, every day of confusion is being woven into the tapestry of your unique story. There are threads of darkness in this tapestry, yes, but they only serve to highlight the golden threads of purpose and meaning that run throughout. Think of a time when you felt completely certain, when the path seemed clear before you. Was that really when you grew the most? Or was it in the challenging times, the confusing times, the times when you had to reach beyond what you thought were your limits? It is easy to walk in the daylight. Anyone can follow a clearly marked path. But those who learn to navigate in the darkness develop a special kind of sight, the eyes of faith that can perceive what others cannot see. You worry that you've strayed too far, that you've taken a wrong turn somewhere along the way. But what if this apparent detour is actually the main road? What if this confusion is not a sign that you've lost your way, but rather that you're being prepared for a way you couldn't have imagined before? Remember the story of Joseph, sold into slavery by his own brothers, imprisoned for years despite his innocence. From his perspective, he must have felt hopelessly lost, abandoned, his dreams shattered beyond repair. Yet every painful step was leading him precisely where he needed to be to fulfill a purpose greater than he could have envisioned. What others intended for harm, he would later say, God intended for good. Your story is no different. The circumstances you face, the confusion you feel, the questions that keep you awake at night, none of these have taken me by surprise. I am not scrambling to adjust my plans for your life because of some wrong turn you believe you've taken. My purposes are greater than your mistakes, more enduring than your confusion, more powerful than the obstacles before you. When a sculptor creates a masterpiece, the marble must endure the chisel. Each strike appears destructive from the perspective of the stone. Yet the sculptor sees not destruction, but creation, the gradual revealing of the beauty that was always there, waiting to be uncovered. Your current discomfort, your sense of being lost, these are often the necessary chisel strikes revealing the masterpiece I have always seen in you. I understand your frustration. You want to see the whole picture, to know exactly where this road leads and why you must travel it. This desire for clarity is natural. But consider this, a seed planted in the ground cannot see the flower it will become. It experiences only darkness, the discomfort of breaking open, the struggle to push through soil toward a light it cannot yet see. Yet without this period of darkness and struggle, no bloom would ever emerge. You are in this planting season, this time of being buried, of breaking open, of reaching blindly toward a light you sometimes doubt. But I see the bloom that is coming. I know precisely what this current season is cultivating within you. Trust the process, even when you cannot see the progress. There are lessons in this wilderness that you could learn nowhere else. Lessons about your own resilience, about my faithfulness, about what truly matters. In comfort and clarity, these lessons often go unlearned. It is only when the non-essentials are stripped away that we discover what remains, what is unshakable, what is true. Remember, even the most sophisticated navigation systems occasionally recalculate. This doesn't mean the destination has changed, only that the route is being adjusted. Sometimes these adjustments take you through landscapes you never expected to travel, past views you never anticipated seeing. But often, it is these unexpected vistas that become the most treasured parts of the journey. I want you to consider something that may seem counterintuitive. What if feeling lost isn't a problem to be solved, but a sacred space to be experienced? What if, rather than rushing to escape this feeling, you allowed yourself to be fully present in it? Not to wallow in confusion, but to listen for the whispers that can only be heard when all other voices have been silenced by uncertainty. In your striving to find the way, don't miss the gifts that are only found in the wilderness. The stillness that allows you to hear my voice more clearly. The stripping away of distractions that reveals what truly matters to your heart. The humility that opens you to guidance you might otherwise have missed. The deeper connection with me that often comes when all other securities have been removed. I know you feel alone in this journey. But look closer. I have placed companions alongside you, some walking their own wilderness paths, some who have emerged from similar seasons and can now offer the wisdom they gained. Some may accompany you for only a short distance, others for many miles. But none appear by accident. Each carries a piece of the guidance you need. And I am always with you. Not as a distant observer, but as a constant companion. When the path grows steepest, I am the strength in your legs. When the night seems darkest, I am the hope that whispers. Morning will come. When you feel you cannot take another step, I am the breath in your lungs, the determination in your heart, the hand holding yours even when you cannot feel it. There will be moments in this wilderness when glimpses of extraordinary beauty break through, unexpected joy, sudden clarity, profound connection. These are not merely random pleasant experiences. They are trail markers, confirmations that even in the wilderness, my presence brings life. Notice these moments. Collect them like stones of remembrance. They will create a path you can follow when the way grows dim again. Remember those who have walked wilderness paths before you. They too felt lost, questioned their direction, wondered if they had been forgotten. The Psalms are filled with these honest cries. How long, O Lord? Will you forget me forever? Yet these same voices later proclaimed, You turned my wailing into dancing. Your story will hold the same testimony in time. The wilderness always feels longer from within than it appears in retrospect. One day, you will look back on this season from a place of greater clarity, and you will see the purpose that was hidden from your eyes as you walked through it. You will recognize how this very feeling of being lost was preparing you for where you needed to go next, how it was developing within you the precise qualities you would need for the next chapter of your story. Until that day comes, hold on to this truth. Your value is not diminished by your confusion. Your worth is not determined by how clearly you can see the path ahead. Your identity as my beloved child remains unchangeable, regardless of how lost you may feel. The Good Shepherd leaves the 99 to find the one, not because the one has kept perfectly to the path, but precisely because it has wandered away. I want you to release the idea that feeling lost means you have failed. In my kingdom, the measurements of success look different than what the world has taught you. Success is not found in constant clarity, but in faithful presence even in confusion. Not in having all the answers, but in continuing to ask the deeper questions. Not in never losing the way, but in allowing yourself to be found, again and again. This wilderness you walk through now is teaching you to rely on different senses. To navigate not by sight but by faith, not by understanding but by trust, not by control but by surrender. These are the very skills you will need for the path ahead. What seems like being lost is actually advanced training for where I am leading you. You worry that you've wasted time, that this season of confusion has delayed your arrival at some important destination. But I am not bound by your timelines. I exist outside of time entirely. What appears to you as delay is often my perfect timing unfolding. The fruit that ripens slowly is often the sweetest. The foundation that is laid with care supports the greatest structures. Remember that feeling lost and being lost are not the same thing. Your feelings, while valid and important, do not always reflect reality. You may feel lost while being precisely where you need to be. You may feel forgotten while being held in the center of my attention. You may feel purposeless while walking directly into the purpose for which you were created. The wilderness has a way of stripping away pretense. In comfort, we can maintain illusions about ourselves, about what we believe, about what we truly value. But in the wilderness, truth emerges. You discover what you actually believe, not what you think you should believe. You find out what truly sustains you when all else is removed. This is a painful process, but also a precious one. Few receive the gift of such clarity. I have not brought you into this wilderness to abandon you here. Every wilderness in Scripture was a place of transition, not a final destination. The Israelites passed through the desert to reach the Promised Land. Jesus emerged from his 40 days to begin his ministry. Each biblical wanderer eventually found their way, not by their own cleverness, but by my faithful guidance. Your story will be no different. Tonight, as you lay down to rest, I want you to release the need to figure everything out. The anxious planning, the frantic searching, the endless questioning of how you came to be here and where you should go next. Instead, simply open your hands and pray this simple prayer. Lord, I am here. You are here. Guide me just one step at a time. That is all you need, just enough light for the next step. And I promise you, that light will always come. Not always as a blinding revelation, but often as a quiet knowing, a gentle nudge, a door that opens while others remain closed. Follow that light, even when it leads in unexpected directions. Especially then. For in the wilderness, when all familiar landmarks have disappeared, you learn to recognize my voice with greater clarity. You develop spiritual muscles that can only be strengthened through this particular kind of resistance. You discover reserves of courage you never knew you possessed. And you begin to understand what it truly means to walk by faith, not by sight. This is the gift of the wilderness, not despite the difficulty, but because of it. This is the strength you are finding even when you feel most lost. And this strength will carry you forward into a future more beautiful than any you could design for yourself. Trust me in this process. You are not lost to me. You are exactly where you need to be to become who you were always meant to be. And I am with you every step of the way. My precious child, now that we've journeyed through this wilderness together, let me show you the path forward. Though the fog may still surround you, there is a way through, and I will guide you step by step. First, I want you to remember who you truly are. Not the labels others have placed on you. Not the mistakes that haunt your memories. Not the doubts that cloud your mind. You are my masterpiece, created with purpose and intention. Your worth was established long before you achieved anything or failed at anything. It remains unchanged regardless of how lost you may feel. In your darkest moments, when you question your value, look at my Son upon the cross. That is how precious you are to me. That is how far I would go to bring you back to my heart. No amount of wandering could ever place you beyond the reach of my love. The path forward begins with this truth: you are deeply, completely, eternally loved. Not because you found your way, but because you are mine. Let this love be the foundation upon which you rebuild. Now I invite you to release what is weighing you down. The expectations that were never yours to fulfill. The regrets over paths not taken. The shame over mistakes you've made. The pressure to have everything figured out. These burdens were never meant for you to carry. Give them to me, for my yoke is easy and my burden is light. With open hands and an unburdened heart, you can now take the most important step: return to stillness. In a world of constant noise and endless distractions, the voice of true guidance is often missed. Find moments of quiet each day. Whether in the early morning light or the peaceful evening hours, create space to simply be with me. In this stillness, listen. Not just with your ears, but with your heart. My voice rarely comes as a thundering command, but more often as a gentle whisper, a subtle knowing, a persistent thought that brings peace rather than anxiety. The more you practice this sacred listening, the more clearly you will recognize my voice guiding you forward. Remember my words in Scripture. I will instruct you and teach you in the way you should go. I will counsel you with my loving eye on you. I am not a distant teacher pointing to a faraway destination. I am right beside you, my loving gaze fixed upon you, guiding each step with tender care. As you listen, I will often lead you back to what you already know to be true. The values that resonate deep in your spirit. The dreams that have persisted despite disappointment. The gifts that bring you joy when you use them. These are not random preferences or fleeting interests. They are signposts I've placed within you, pointing toward your purpose. Do not despise small beginnings. The path forward rarely appears as one dramatic revelation. More often, it unfolds one modest step at a time. You may wish for a map showing the entire journey, but instead, I offer you a lamp that illuminates just the next few feet ahead. This is not to frustrate you, but to develop your faith and keep you close to me throughout the journey. Trust the seasons. There is a rhythm to finding your way again. Just as nature moves through winter before reaching spring, your spirit may need a time of dormancy before new growth appears. This doesn't mean nothing is happening. Beneath the surface, essential work is taking place. Roots are strengthening. Preparation is happening. Honor this process rather than fighting against it. Look for the helpers I've placed along your path. No one is meant to journey alone. Some will walk alongside you for just a short while, offering exactly the guidance you need for that segment of the path. Others will accompany you for miles, providing constant support and perspective. Be humble enough to receive their help, for often my guidance comes through the people I've positioned in your life. When doubts return, and they will, remember the testimonies of your past. The times when you couldn't see the way forward, yet a path emerged. The prayers that seemed unanswered, until you looked back and saw how perfectly they were fulfilled in my timing. Your own story contains evidence of my faithfulness. Let those memories strengthen you when the path grows dim again. The world will tell you that certainty is the goal, that successful people always know exactly where they're going and how to get there. This is a falsehood. The most meaningful journeys involve mystery, discovery, and growth that could never be plotted in advance. Embrace the beautiful uncertainty of a life walked in faith rather than rigid planning. As you move forward, keep your eyes on me rather than on your circumstances. Peter walked on water as long as his gaze remained fixed on Jesus. When he looked instead at the waves surrounding him, he began to sink. The same principle applies to your journey. Focus on my unchanging character rather than your changing situation, and you will find stability even on unsteady ground. Know that the path forward will not be perfect. You will still have questions. You will still face obstacles. You will still experience doubt. But you will no longer be paralyzed by them. Instead, you will have the courage to move forward even with questions unanswered, the strength to face obstacles with confidence, and the faith to keep walking even when doubt whispers that you've lost the way. The beauty of this journey is that it transforms not just your direction, but your very self. The person who emerges from this season of feeling lost will be more compassionate toward others who struggle, more patient with life's uncertainties, more attuned to my guidance, and more aware of what truly matters. These qualities could not have developed without this very challenge you're facing now. Go forward now with hope, not because the path is suddenly clear, but because you know the one who walks beside you. I am your good shepherd, leading you to green pastures and still waters. I am your Father, guiding you home with unfailing love. I am your God, working all things together for your good, even when you cannot see how. Remember, you are not lost. You are found, loved, and on a journey that is unfolding exactly as it should. Trust the process. Trust my heart for you. And most of all, trust that this season of feeling lost will ultimately lead you to being more truly, beautifully, powerfully found than you ever imagined possible.